Hi, it's Dr. Lauren Kosinski, and today is day number 17 of 33 of my YouTube video challenge, and it is February 15, 2024. So I've missed 2 days, and life intercedes in the ways that we can imagine. But it's interesting how that's happened in this week, because the first issue on the 13th was that I had my first homework due for a class that I decided to sign up for, a course, which is really off track in some ways from almost everything that I've said that I would do. But I signed up to take a 10-week business essentials course at the London School of Economics that started about a week ago. And I'll just say a little bit about it because I'm shocked myself that I decided to do this. And the motivation for it, well, I think there were two things. One is that I've always been fascinated by the London School of Economics because they have pretty progressive social science education, and people that I've been interested in have done their degrees or been on faculty there. And then the other thing that happened was that after I had an elective operation on my foot at the end of November, in that really interesting space that I was in sort of psychically or emotionally around that hospital stay, being in a country that I don't know, in a language, speaking mostly a language that I don't know, and then being vulnerable and being a patient is always interesting for doctors. But several different things happened in the aftermath, and after a period, a kind of really expansive feeling, then I had a day of sheer terror about everything that I've tried to do, and particularly in the last 5 years. And then I just sat with that. I just let that happen. And when I woke up the next morning, I woke to this terrific sense of calm. And in it was this idea that maybe if I knew a little bit more about some of the things that I've been trying to do, like my work as an executive director of a small surgical research foundation, that I would feel better. But even at a deeper layer than this, there was this feeling that in my upbringing, which was really a chaotic childhood and a place where I was often the most adult person in the room, that I didn't acquire myself really good templates for or habits for self-care. And it struck me that the online course that I made to try to help guide other physicians through a path of discovery of a more distinctive way of practicing yourself, and a way of coming to a different understanding about what the calling to be a doctor is. Things that I wished had accompanied me over the last 10 years and through the journey that I'm describing in this video series. And it's interesting that I called it the Foundations course, and that a part of me intuitively was trying to work to and go to the deepest levels of how we get to this place and what we're looking for. And certainly a lot of people had friends, had confronted me through this journey that I've been on to say, you're asking too much of medicine, or this is a personal story. And of course it is, but I think we all have a personal story, and a lot of that helps us, and a lot of that gets in our way or creates a particular set of conditions or concerns that we have to address in order to get to some higher ground with the work, and to not feel run into the ground with the work. But in any case, that's how, when I opened my computer and said, well, maybe I'll do something to look more at the business side. And in particular, I was having some problems talking with the accountant who hasn't been treating me like a customer, like a physician who's smart but needs to be guided. And instead, I felt intimidated myself about what I didn't understand. And the first program that came up was this 10-week business essentials. So I'm doing that. I had homework due. I've been working at things through the week. This last assignment, the written assignment, was important and interesting, but took a little more time than I thought. So that I really wanted to get all of that done on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, my German Shepherd, who periodically has gastrointestinal problems, particularly when he's stressed for one reason or another. And I don't know what that was this week, but ended up with a hemorrhagic gastritis and a bunch of other things. So everybody's doing well. We've gotten that settled. We all had a good night's sleep last night, and I am back. And that has eaten up almost the 5 minutes of the time that I try to allocate. But what I guess I'll say here, I've spoken about the built environment. So I've been working on these ideas about how the built environment and also how our relationships among people in medicine, but also between us and our patients, are there other ways that I could be thinking and working in those ways that would help to produce a more supportive work environment, one that I can engage in and contribute to, but also that feeds me. So the conversations that I've been having about becoming the vice chair of surgery in professionalism did lead me to focus more on what things were happening with physicians. How did I read what was happening with physicians, and a lot of the work that was being done to try to deal with disruptive physicians, which I saw as both a necessary thing and a real thing, but also being manipulated by corporate interests that wanted to stage a takeover of the leadership that physicians had of hospitals and of health systems. And then also a kind of reconciliation happening between nurses and physicians about some power differentials that had been, I think, abused over a long period of time and reflect a lot of the station of women and women's work in what's identified as women's work in society. So I saw these as kind of like, a lot of things coming into play around the characterization of physicians as disruptive. But a couple of things were interesting to me in this. One is that I was looking myself at the times when I'm disruptive and distressed. And I also was realizing that there was some of the literature that was available about this beyond all the safety concerns and things about poor communication and high risk endeavors, was that a lot of the physicians who were being identified as disruptive were often the most conscientious physicians on staff. And so what was happening with that, because this wasn't really being discussed, it was almost like you had a character disorder if you were disruptive, when in fact, maybe a lot of what was happening is that your standards were high or too high, or this conscientious part of you is asking for something out of the system. So I'm just trying to put all of that together when I'm thinking about how to approach this job that might or might not be forming. And I also was affected certainly by this surgeon leader's thoughts that there wasn't a way to fix the hospital, that the best way to fix the hospital was to try to have people not be in the hospital. Well, and then of course I'd had this download some years earlier about Canopy and had been in conversations with people about how I might make an umbrella organization that generated revenue through things that people already wanted to buy, but that were aligned somehow, at least philosophically, with what the principles of this hospital might be. And so part of what loosened up in my thinking with that was, well, if I can't build a new hospital, could I change a hospital from the inside out in terms of people's experience and in terms of the building itself, the property itself, or the physical features of that itself? And this led to the creation of a suite of software applications that I thought could accomplish some of the kinds of things that I was looking for in a stepwise fashion. And I'll say more about that I've called provenance. I'll say more about that in the next video. But in the in-between here, you'll have seen that I inserted yet another, the second of two kind of pitch. This one being more of a pitch for hospitals, not just a brochure for patients or to show what patients could expect to get, but kind of some of what I saw as leading dynamics for why a hospital might be interested. So hopefully this video makes a little link between things and gives a little look in on how the process is continuing even now, although I'm talking still about things that started 10 years ago. So I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. We'll continue the story.